Welcome back to Cajun Case Files. This week, we finish our investigation into David Mott's murder. In parts 1 and 2, you heard how he was killed, the strange circumstances surrounding his murder, and the leads investigators were working with. We've also tracked down David's movements and conversations in the days and hours leading up to his killing. There's a really small window where we have no idea what happened in David's life. That time from when he left his home the evening of Monday, July 19th, 2004, and 1 a.m. Tuesday morning when David was found dead. This is the Cajun Case File of David Mott.
KLFY uncovers and digs deeper into the untold stories of missing persons, strange disappearances, cold cases, and mysteries from the heart of Acadiana. Beal and Abear present Cajun Case Files, a KLFY Plus original.
At the end of the latest episode on David Mott, I told you I had just spoken with someone who saw David leave his home. That person lived near David 22 years ago. This neighbor told me they were walking their dog that hot Monday evening, July 19th. They couldn't remember the exact time, but they know it was the evening. They remember it was dark outside, but they could see because of street lights and other lights on around David's home. This neighbor estimates it must have been around 8:30 or 9 at night. So they're walking and they pass David's home. They see him alone walk from his mobile home and get into his blue truck. Then he leaves. The neighbor says David didn't appear distraught or distressed. He seems normal. I asked if they saw any dark-colored vehicle in David's driveway that day, and they said no. So now we know David did leave his home alone and willingly. No one forced him to leave. What we still don't know is, where was he going? A different neighbor did tell me they remembered someone had seen David at a nearby store and casino called Studebaker's later. And again, he was alone. However, this neighbor could not remember who told them they saw David. I went to Studebaker's, which is now a Rite Aid, but none of the employees that worked there back in 2004 work there anymore. And the owners of Studebaker's have since passed away. So I cannot tell you if David really did go to Studebaker's that night after he left his home. I checked with David's sister, Lori, and she said the cameras at Studebaker's were broken at the time. But even if he did, it doesn't explain why David ended up dead on the side of I-10, seemingly heading in the direction of Lafayette. I told you in the last episode you'd hear from one of the closest people in David's life, his once stepson, Kevin. So here's what Kevin remembers.
He took to me and just, like I said, hunting and fishing and camping, and that's all we did.
Kevin Underwood was 12 years old when he met David. In Kevin's teenage years, his mom and David got married.
Very chilled, down to earth kind of guy. Nothing really made him mad. I mean, I was young, so I could have made him mad, but he never really got mad, you know.
While Kevin's mom and David's marriage only lasted a few years, Kevin and David stayed close.
I always referred to him as Mr. David, but he knew that I looked at him as my dad.
Kevin even lived with David at his home in Duson from the ages of 17 to 19.
Somebody who stepped up in my life as a father, you know, and loved me and called me son, and even when him and my mom got divorced, it never changed.
From about 19 to 21 years old, while Kevin didn't live with David, he visited. For a while, Kevin had dinner at David's every Thursday. In the last year leading up to David's death, it wasn't as often, though Kevin always made time. At least twice a month on a Thursday, Kevin and his now wife would be there, dinner at David's.
It was awesome. I regret it sometimes because as I got older and started getting girlfriends, I wouldn't go as much, and I should have. If I could take it back, I would, you know, but can't take it back.
It was a few years after Kevin moved out of David's home when he was killed. After his murder, detectives asked Kevin to take a polygraph.
I didn't have anything to hide, so. But getting hooked up to a polygraph machine, yeah, it was a little nerve-wracking, but did I want to take it? No, but if I told them no, then they would have just kept looking at me, and that's not helping getting any justice for him, you know? If they can rule me out, then they can take that time and effort to look into somebody else. And I know he would do it for me. So there's no doubt about it.
Kevin did pass the polygraph test. A big question at the time, who owned that dark-colored vehicle at least one neighbor spotted at David's home that Monday? Many people thought the car was Kevin's.
You know, they just asked me if I drove a black colored car, if I had went to his house that night, where was I that night, if I had anything to do with his death, just questions like that. And the only question I answered yes to is if I had a car like that. You know, all the other ones were no, I wasn't at his house. No, I didn't have anything to do with it. I mean, he was like a dad to me, why would I?
Kevin explains he and David never had real issues. The few issues they did have were minuscule, typical teenage stuff.
You know, he had rules for me because I lived at his house. You know, it didn't matter if I was 19 years old, you know, wanted me home at a certain time. It wasn't midnight, by 2 o'clock in the morning, you needed to be home. You know, you need to wash your own clothes. You need to cut the grass, you know, you need to pay a little bit of, buy some groceries for the house, which was teaching me responsibility. Well, I was 19, I didn't want to hear that. So I told him, I said, you're not gonna tell me what to do, I'm gonna move out. That was the biggest argument me and him ever had. So, I mean, that's what I told them. I'm like, why would I want to hurt him?
Kevin says David did not act out of character in the weeks or days before. Kevin did not recognize the suspect sketch. Kevin says David didn't have any friends who matched the description of the two dirty-looking men spotted at the scene by a driver passing by. But that does not mean David did not know the possible men who attacked him. Kevin believes David's murder was targeted, a memory ingrained in his brain, walking the scene with David's friend and boss, Jean-Wayne Prejean.
On top of the overpass, by where it happened, or where we believe it happened, there was a dried up puddle of blood. And then right past that, they had some very tall grass on the side of the guardrail, and you could see a trail where looks like somebody would have drugged somebody, because the grass was pretty much almost laid down, and it went all the way down pretty much by where they said his truck was on the interstate. Yeah, so that's not a random act.
Kevin points to a few reasons why he believes that.
The cops said nobody robbed him. You know, if it was a random act, they would have took his wallet or took whatever possessions he had. Second is because of the way I feel it happened. You know, I mean, I feel it happened on top of the bridge. They found his truck underneath the bridge with tires missing, and so say half the wheel broke off. So, I mean, I think it happened on top of the bridge, and then somebody moved his body and they drove his truck onto the interstate.
The two driver's side tires being flat is an important clue for Kevin.
He would have had to have left his house on flat tires for his truck tires and rims to be that bad by the time he got to the overpass, you know, or in whatever, you know. I mean, he's not driving his truck down the interstate with blowouts.
It also doesn't make sense for Kevin and many others close to David why he was heading eastbound on I-10. Kevin says he thinks that's because he wasn't.
I mean, I guess he left his house, was coming down the road towards the interstate, and to me, somebody had to be waiting for him. You know, I mean, I guess flagged him down. Maybe he got out. They must have beat him because they said he had blunt force trauma to the back of the head. And then, I guess, drug him, and somebody took his truck and drove it on the interstate, or maybe somehow they blew out his tires. Maybe somebody blew out his tires, and that's why his tires were gone, and they said part of his rim was gone, you know. I don't know, but I don't believe it was random.
They parked that truck down at the bottom. They went to the top of the overpass, knowing David was going to be coming that way. Blew out his tires, forced to stop. From there, David gets out. They beat him, drag him back down to their truck, or back down to the overpass. I don't know what, maybe they wanted privacy. They kill him, make sure he's dead, and they take David's truck, now at the top of the overpass, and swing it back around to the interstate next to his body. That's what I think.
One thing Kevin knows is David would be in his life today if he wasn't taken.
I mean, I know he would love my little boys. He'd be bringing them hunting, fishing, and treat them just like he treated me.
He believes someone in Acadiana knows something.
please come forward. You know, there's a lot of people who would like to know what happened and want to see, you know, some kind of repercussions for what you've done, you know. He was a good man, world lost a good guy, and a lot of people are still hurt behind it, you know. I mean, my kids missed out on a awesome grandfather, you know. So if anybody does know anything, please, I beg you to please come forward.
Coming up, I speak with more neighbors who saw some really strange things happening at David's home in the weeks before he was killed.
Cajun Case Files will be back after this.
After my interview with Kevin, he pointed me to some of David's neighbors at the time. These people did not want to go on camera and want to stay anonymous because, well, no one has ever been arrested for David's murder. They're afraid of being targets themselves. So I'm going to use an alias and call them the Johnsons. One of the Johnsons remembers vividly some strange going-ons on Soldier Road where David lived in the weeks before his murder. One of the Johnsons told me they were close friends with David. They also worked from home in 2004. And they remember in the weeks before David's murder, they saw that David had someone come to his house just about every other day, and they drove a white Tahoe. But David told them who that person was, so the Johnsons knew this person. Now, this wasn't one of the strange things this neighbor saw. They could explain that white Tahoe, and they knew who it was. The things that struck them as odd and unnerving was something else. Vehicles would turn onto Soldier Road off of Highway 343 at different times of the day and night. The vehicles would start driving down Soldier Road, slow down when passing David's home, speed back up, go down the rest of the road at a normal speed, turn around, drive really slow past David's home again, then speed back up and take off, again down Highway 343. This neighbor and friend of David says this happened several times. So much so, they say they filed a report with the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Office thinking someone was scoping out the neighborhood for some nefarious reason. And just days after making that report, their children saw a white truck parked by the canal less than 100 feet from David's home. Since it was stopped, the children could see people in it, and they were smoking cigarettes. The children ran inside to tell their parents, but by the time they got outside again, the truck and its occupants were gone. Now, what I found interesting is this. The Johnsons say when David was killed, all of that activity and the strange happenings totally stopped. And a connection I keep thinking of. Remember, a white truck was spotted near David's truck on I-10 just before his body was discovered. A member of the Johnson family also told me they remembered walking around David's home the day of his murder. They vividly remember looking at the dew in the yard and noticing a pattern. To them, it looked like a vehicle had driven to the back of David's yard and pulled up next to the back door. David's sister Lori says she remembers that detail, but told me everything in his home was dusted for fingerprints and evidence by LPSO. She remembers seeing the black dust all across his home when she was allowed back inside about a week after David's murder. David and Lori's oldest brother also stayed at David's home in the weeks after to see if he'd get any weird calls to his home or they'd see any strange activity, and there was nothing. Coming up, we talk more theories and break down if they're even possible.
More Cajun Case Files after this.
Let's go back to Kevin's theory about how David's murder happened. Kevin believes David was never driving along I-10. David's best friend and boss, John Wayne Prejean, shares that same idea.
Oh yeah, my theory is somebody brought that truck around there and parked it there and planted this, you know. Who am I? I mean, you know, but from what I've seen and The blood, whatever took place at the top of it, the two blown tires on the same side that was driven on. So that's not Dave. I mean, yeah, I can see him blowing one tire out, and I mean, it's not like he was running away from somebody or whatever, my theory. No, it was all staged and planted there.
I want to show you from a bird's eye view why Kevin and John Wayne believe this. This is where David lived on Soldier Road. This is where he was found dead on I-10, his truck facing eastbound towards Lafayette. They can't think of anyone David would be going to visit towards Lafayette this way late at night. What makes more sense to them? David left his home, drove down Highway 343, and then stopped on this overpass. This is the overpass where David's pooled blood was found. This is where they believe David was killed. And it's important to note, you cannot get on or off I-10 from right here. To be on I-10 where David was found, he would have probably had to travel this way from his home and gotten on the interstate right here. Now, in this scenario, David pulls over on the side of I-10 under this overpass. Maybe he ran over something that popped both of his driver's side tires. Maybe he ran out of gas. Maybe he stops to help someone. But John Wayne and Kevin, they buy that first theory, where David comes this way. They believe this was a setup. Their theory, somehow the person or people that killed David knew he left his house around 9 that night and knew he would be coming over this overpass. And that is where David gets out of his truck and is killed. Then the killer or killers swing David's vehicle back around this way and get on I-10 here. Drive it this way, and now David's truck is found just like law enforcement found it, heading eastbound on I-10. But David's sister, Lori, she has a different theory.
My thoughts, for whatever reason, whether it was a road rage incident, somebody was after him, something was not right for him to get on the interstate. And at that time, I don't know if it's still called Studebaker's, but there was a truck stop at that exit, the Duson exit, I guess it is, and there was road works. And he was the auto body guy, so he knew the damage it would do to his tires if he continued. So anyway, I think he got on the interstate there and damaged his tires on his driver's side. So this is why I'm thinking, kind of try to think like David was thinking. Maybe he was obviously running on fumes because he was on empty. But I think his thinking was, his tires were damaged, if I pull up under this overpass and get over the overpass, he could have run to his house. He was, I think they said, less than 2 miles from where he lived. And he could have gotten to his house if he could have gotten over the overpass and down the road. So my thinking is that he realized somebody was after him and jumped out of his truck, left it running, left his keys, left his wallet, left his phone in his console, and tried to get to his house, and they caught up to him. I say they because I just, for some reason, I feel that there was 2 people involved. I just do. So I don't know if he thought his life was in danger, or I don't know what he was thinking. I would love to know what he was thinking. Because, I mean, if he would have got to his house, he was a hunter. He was a bow hunter. He was he had a gun, he had bow and arrows, he had weapons. So, but he didn't have that in his truck. Yeah, I think he was just trying to get away from the situation, get to his house. His house was a safe place for him. I was told that they attempted to put him in the back of his truck, and he was too heavy. So they propped him. And for me, if a cold-blooded killer is just going to kill a ruthless, take a man's life just because, they wouldn't have gone through the trouble of pulling him down and placing him and all this. To me, they would have killed him and left him where he lied dead, period. Done. Who cares, right?
After the break, David's loved ones pleas for help.
Cajun Case Files will be back after this.
David Mott's family and friends have been in the dark for 22 years about his murder. Here are their final pleas for answers.
The right one knows, and that's how I've had to live my life, as far as just letting it go, putting it in God's hands, because one day somebody's got to answer for this. Cold cases is like there's no perfect crime. No, somebody knows something somewhere.
I would say shame on you. You know, to me I mean, tells a lot about a person. Somebody that wouldn't, you're not gonna say nothing? What kind of person are you, you know, I mean?
I think he deserves justice, you know, just simply put.
If you care anything about people, from the bottom of my heart, I'm asking you to please let someone know what you know about what happened to David.
If you know anything about David Mott's murder, contact the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office. You can also leave an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers.